Hi, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the
Hello.
Rhetoric Rabbit Hole. Today I got with me Phil, as the usual, and we got Robert Olsen joining us today. Thanks for joining
Oh,
us, man.
hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you this lovely evening?
I'm doing just fine. Just another day. Just another fucking Wednesday on my patio. Actually, after 20 years, it's just every day's a Wednesday.
I love the panoramic you're giving us. Yeah, just keep.
Ah,
It's like the center of like the eye of a storm, you know.
it's a nervous habit I developed sitting on my patio during quarantine. It's like my social encounters consist of basically 1.5 minutes at the map go to get a six pack and a pack of cigarettes. And then like yeah, I basically, this is what I do. I crack open a beer, I'll pop in my headphones maybe, or I'll pick up my journal, and I just pace back and forth on my patio, pace back and forth, make my way back to my table, pick up my beer, take a sip, light up a new cigarette, and just start walking again. Yeah, I've lost. I've actually lost 2 inches off my waist over the course of the past 5 months, and my buddy who I do carpentry with is convinced that it's because, like, dude, you spend 3 or 4 hours pacing back and forth on your patio. Do you know what that
Mm,
amounts to when you're walking in a straight line? You're probably walking 3 to 5 miles a day.
yeah, yeah. Like that's a good point. So is that your writing process also? You just kind of let things stir in your head while you're walking, and then you go sit down and you write it down. Is it like
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to the poetry, which I've been doing since I was 9 years old, and I'm 39 now, and the with the poetry, it's basically like I get these like thoughts. Have you ever seen the movie Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I don't
About
think I
that
have.
about that famous the guy who
Biography.
created that big plane and shit. Anyway, he's like, he always had this OCD voice in his head for some reason that just constantly repeated a thought. And so it's like I've kind of got that, and it's so I get this thought, I'll have a thought, and it'll just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat until I can actually put it into a poem, and then there it's gone, boom, off into oblivion.
Yeah,
And then I get and
yeah.
then I get another one, and then I get
Right.
another one.
Yes.
There are days where it's like I'll write like 5 to 7 poems in one day, and then there are days where I won't write any. But it's crazy, man. Like I put everything on Facebook. Like I don't hide anything. It's like, so my Facebook is like 90% original content, like a blog. I don't
Mm-hmm.
share memes and shit. And so um my Facebook at this point, since I joined 10 years ago, or almost 10 years ago, probably has like well over 600 poems on it.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking insane, actually. Yeah, at some point I have to go back and copy and paste them all, because 3/4 of it, that's the only place it exists. Like I'll type
Yeah.
it out on my phone and put it on Facebook, and I don't have a copy in my Google
Right.
Drive or on
Right.
paper. So it's like at some point I'm gonna have to scroll back 10 years and copy and paste
I've got a
about
lot of
about
content.
yeah.
I got a lot of content like that too. That's like it only exists online now. I don't have a physical copy of it anymore.
Yeah, it's a bit of a logistical nightmare if you think about it, because like I've got a heart condition, so it's like at any moment, like, I mean, I could drop dead due to heart palpitations. So, despite the fact that I'm smoking, fuck you, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's a logistical nightmare. It's like, I really ought to jump on top of it. Otherwise, I mean, I've already talked to my brother, and he's going to be the one that's going to be doing it.
Hmm. I
Um,
got you.
but
You, you guys say something, Phil?
Yeah, actually, we're gonna bring it back a little bit. Where are you? Because you said that it was Wednesday, and it's definitely not Wednesday for me.
Oh, dude, I got laid off 20 weeks ago, man. I've been sitting on my patio. Every day is a Wednesday.
Fair
Okay.
enough. Fair
I
enough.
was just
That,
very
yeah.
confused about that.
Yeah, man. Every day is a damn Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't say that it's a Monday,
Yeah,
because
Phil, you're the one that's
Monday
off
has that.
schedule.
Monday has that terrifying sort of like, I'm either going to invest in some kind of like emotional cathexis going into the week and then have the catharsis on Friday. I mean, and that's great. And it's this wonderful universal formula for pretty much anybody. But on the Wednesday, nothing fucking happens. There's no cathexis, there's no catharsis, there's no investment, there's no release. It's just fucking Wednesday.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every day's Wednesday, bro. Didn't you get the memo?
Yeah. Oh, didn't you get the memo?
So, um, so like you were talking about how like one of these things will just get stuck with you, and then you kind of exercise it out of you, like
Yeah.
into a piece of art. And I can relate to that, man. And something like for me, I don't know exactly where it comes from. I feel like it enters my head, but where does that, is that me or is that something else? Or
You don't need to know where it comes from. All you need to know is where to put it.
right? Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's like Lewis Carroll once said in an interview when he was asked, it was during an interview when he was asked about his poem Jabberwocky and why he liked writing nonsensical poems, and his response was take care of the sound and the sense will take care of itself. And I think that that's more than just, it's not only is it the best writing advice ever that you could possibly receive and process, but it's life advice is what it is, you know. And when you have a traumatic experience, it's like that's just the sound, man. And you know, you take care of the sound and the sense will take care of itself. And if you start getting obsessed with trying to make sense out of every shitty thing that fucking happens to you in your life, you're gonna go batshit insane. And you're not gonna be able to make art at that point. You won't be able to. You'll be dead in the water, stuck with writer's block. And quite frankly, writer's block is bullshit. So all you got to do is sit down and summon the damn angel yourself. Summon the muse yourself. Create the ritual, summon the muse, and do it. And don't wait for it to come to you.
That's all very true. That's all excellent advice. It's like, yeah, you just got to do it. It's like that meme, the Shia LaBeouf meme. Just do it. Just manifest
Yeah,
that.
right?
Yeah.
He's totally into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's totally into it. Yep.
Right.
It's right there. But yeah, take care of the sound. The sense will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're writing hip hop, or if you're writing a poem or anything like that. Like as long as it sounds good and rolls off the tongue,
Mm-hmm.
who gives a shit what sense it makes? Somebody will
Right.
find some sense in it.
For me, art is always, yeah. Thank you. I think, that's something people need to hear.
Yeah, someone in particular needs
Yeah.
to hear that.
So like,
Don't they?
moving on, we have, you made me lose what I was thinking, Phil.
Good.
What was I gonna say?
How Goopa's not as bad as you always say it is.
So, are you a hip hop guy, Robert? Do you listen to a lot of hip hop?
Oh, I love it all. You know, I love all of it. It's like if it's well done, it's good. That's just how I stand. Like, I mean, I grew up with the Andrews Sisters and Fleetwood Mac and Django Reinhardt and Bob Seger.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, as a poet, I got into Eminem. And it's like, I think it's great that there's somebody, or at least there was somebody a couple years ago who was teaching Eminem lyrics as satire at Harvard. You know, there was a Harvard professor that was putting Eminem into his curriculum for a satire course. And I think that's wonderful, you know, and I'm everything, dude. I just absorb everything. I think it's all great.
There's have you do you keep up with anything current going on as far as that world goes? Because there's this guy Tekashi 6ix9ine. He's not anyone I'm a fan of, but he's someone he's kind of hard to avoid if you keep up with that realm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I can't say that I'm familiar with him. Yep.
Well, the only reason I was asking is Philip and I sort of have this ongoing debate about it. But it's something that's like that's quite a rabbit hole to go down, and yeah.
Now, wait, are you talking about when you say 6ix9ine? Are you talking about the guy that's in the media all the time for like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, for crimes and shit? That's got face tattoos all over him.
Right. That's
Okay.
Yep.
I've never heard a single word come out of his mouth.
Okay.
I've only ever seen pictures.
Fair enough. Hey, I mean, hey, more power to you, man.
No, I'm out of the loop. I'm out of the loop.
I shouldn't be so critical. I'm just not a fan of this content. That's all. um, I wish I could remember the point I was trying to get on before, and then I got totally sideblinded by Philip. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
There's like I think you really they kind of you put my mind at ease talking about how you don't really need to know where it comes from. You just get lost in the process of it, and that's what art is just getting lost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
yeah. It's 100% the process.
Because I feel the pressure of trying to overanalyze it. You know,
it's the the ritual of it. It's like oh, I don't want to get too much into this, but
yeah, I'm
like
trying not to.
let's say, like, just to give you an example without getting too theoretical about it, like for me, like, you put a pen and a paper in my hand and a cigarette in my mouth, and I get into a zone, and I can't even remember that there's a roof over my head, that there are cars going past me outside, that there's a train that passes by my apartment. It all just falls
You're just
away.
there.
And I'm in this oblivion, this total zone. And I think that everybody has that. I call it the magic wand. And what it is basically, it's like the magic wand is that thing that you pick up. It's an object or a movement that your body makes. Like for an actor on a stage, the magic wand would be stepping onto the stage for the first time, and boom, you're immediately, it induces the state of mind that you need to be in order to create. And so, like, for us, it's like I mean, there are guitarists, like, I shit you not, like, you pick out any guitarist in Nashville and tell them, like, keep your guitar in the case across the room, or keep it on one of those like tripods, and just take a look at it and tell me what happens in your head. And the moment they even remotely just think about the guitar or look at the guitar, it triggers this mindset where they need to be there in order to make music. And so just by looking at the guitar, they just, and I mean, you can even imagine, it's like when a drummer of 30 years like myself sits down on the throne and picks up the sticks, like, everything falls away, man. I'm not even aware anymore of what underwear I'm wearing.
Right.
It all falls apart.
You're just totally lost. You just separate. Yeah.
That's the zone.
And that's the zone. And that's the aim. That's the aim to achieve also, I believe.
It's totally,
right.
That's the goal. That's
right.
the goal that you should be striving for, is practice until you get to this point where you have this solidified, coagulated, let's use alchemical terms. So this coagulated headspace that's adhered to the object of your intent. And the object of my intent would be a pen in my hand or a guitar in my hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the moment that I pick up that object, it induces the state of mind that I need to be in. Like, the object itself alters my state of mind.
I see exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a collaborative process between the maker and the art itself, and the tool.
Yes. Yeah, and the tool. Don't leave the tool out. You know, it's like it's a collaborative process. Yep.
There's one more thing I want to touch on that's kind of into that realm, but we'll be brief about it. Something I've been thinking about a lot recently is my own pantheon and what I worship personally. And I'm sort of having to rediscover that myself. And
Hmm.
um, something I've really been thinking about recently is Prometheus and how he's the light bringer. He's the one that brings knowledge to man, forbidden knowledge, divine knowledge, and he that so there's Prometheus and there's the fire or the light that he brings to man, and then there's man itself, and those three things sort of form a holy trinity. The teacher, the student, and the information is also so. I think what I'm trying to say is it's not enough to just worship Prometheus for me. You also have to worship the one receiving the information and also the information or the tool being handed down. You
Yeah,
know?
for sure. I mean, that's the personal mythos. That's the poesis is really what it comes down to. And each of those gods is just another tool in a way when you're talking about accessing a specific headspace in order to be creative and that sort of thing. And so it's like, if you're gonna, sometimes it's like you can pick up one, pray to one, worship one, and one as in one god, one specific god, like whether you want to worship Lucifer, or whether you want to worship Prometheus or pray to Prometheus or whatnot. It's like you're picking up that object. That's whether it's imaginal,
Mm-hmm.
psychological, physical, mental, emotional. You're you're picking that up and it's putting you into a certain headspace. And now the trick that what you're getting at is that the trick is whether or not you can pick up three at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And now
That's true
that's where
because
it gets that's
you're
that's where
right
it gets
because that's
tricky.
all good and fine to say, but to actually practice, that's another thing. You're right.
That's where it gets
Yeah.
tricky, and that's where it takes years and years and years of practice. Is can I combine these three objects of intent or symbols of intent? Can I combine them? Can I pick them up at the same time? Can I do 10 at a time?
Mm-hmm.
Where will it take me?
That's yeah, it's a really good point, man. I so tell me what you got going on, man. What are you working on?
About 10 years ago, I started writing basically a soundtrack to a science fiction film that's been in my head for quite a while.
Right
Um,
on.
so I've got the whole thing in my head. I know how it all plans out, and I'm not going to give away the spoiler because it does have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
spoiler.
yeah.
It
Yeah,
does have a it does have a twist ending.
don't
So
give us more than you're
we
willing
can't
to.
talk about that. But the fun thing is that like we've got all these sequences, and I always from the get-go imagined it as being like a black and white film from the 1950s, despite the fact that it's set in the 2050s. um
Okay.
and so it would be like a silent film, I guess, and all of the
Whoa.
all
All
of the
right.
sound effects would be done musically. And so it's been my project for a while to like collect the pedals and figure out like what pedals do I need in order to turn my guitar into basically the rocket boosters for a NASA shuttle launch, and how
Damn.
can I replicate a
Yeah.
a multi-tiered or like multi-stage, that's the word I want, a multi-stage rocket boost where it goes from here's this gas tank, now that's one drained, we're going
Mm-hmm.
to the next one, and we're shooting off into the atmosphere. And now once we've
Yeah.
broken the atmosphere and all that's gone and the sound is gone, what does it sound like, for them, like the relief of getting up there, and that sort of thing. So, and also like if we're gonna make a final approach and there's some sort of fuck up, which I do believe Keith had linked you to that, the one last mistake upon final approach. And so the question is like, if we're entering and we start burning up upon entry to this planet, this exoplanet, like what does that sound like? And so the goal was like, well, talking to Evan, it's like, well, let me be the fire on the outside of the ship, engulfing the ship, and you be the emotions through your synthesizer and your keyboards and the bass, what's going on inside the heads of the two pilots inside the ship as they begin to realize we're fucked.
Oh, wow.
So I am basically at most times during the whole hour-long album that I've written, and I've already written all of my parts. Like, I could literally go into the studio tomorrow and do the whole hour in 2 takes.
Wow.
Now we just need to get Evan caught up with the bass and the synthesizers and all that kind of stuff. But it's like her project, her role is how do these characters feel as all of this is happening, and let me be the atmosphere, the ship, the fires outside of the ship, the physical shit that happens, and
Right.
you be the emotions for
That's
the people who survive it. And
that's
so
such yeah.
we've separated our project that way. And as I was telling Keith the other day, it's like my big thing is when I work with other people, I'm very like I'm not anal per se. Like, I've already written the whole thing. I've written the whole hour. I know exactly what I want.
Mhm.
And I do not want a 5-person democracy, a full-blown band, because I don't have time to argue with a faux pro pop country drummer who thinks that he's going to get famous. You know, and I'm going to argue with him about, like, because I've been playing the drums for 30 years. I know what drum beats I want. I will sit behind your set and I will show you, and I want you to copy them. Like, I don't have the time to argue with people like that. But with Evan, it's like, she knows exactly what to do, and with her instruments and all this kind of stuff. So for me, it's like the creative process is, okay, this is what I've got. I've got a canvas. The canvas is this size. We're working with oil paints. If you want to paint a spaceship or a dildo, that's entirely up to fucking you, but you're going to stay within the size of the canvas. You're going to use oil paints.
Yeah.
And you have the freedom to do what you want within that parameter. So, I'm not an anal asshole, and Evan will back that
But
up.
you have a vision though. You have a vision
Yeah,
of
I
you
I
want
have a vision, but I
right.
also
Yeah. I
I
understand.
give her freedom, but it's got to be like, this is the time signature. I mean,
Right.
if the time signature is 5/4, I don't want you playing a funk beat.
I'm also super picky with the people I collaborate with. It's not like personal. It's just like it has to be. They have to kind of see what I'm doing, and like have an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you told me you've been writing since you were 9 years old.
Yeah, that's when I started writing poetry. Yep.
What? Okay, so like explain how how you got to where you're at from there. Like, how did that evolve? How have you evolved as a writer?
Well, I got my drum set when I was 9, and um, I I took lessons with a guy who lived behind me on Long Island, and it was an hour a week, and he taught me how to play the drums through hip hop beats. So it's like I learned how to play the drums at 9 years old to Tone Loc, and what was it, Humpty Hump? I can't remember the name of the band that did that, but Humpty Hump and Tone Loc and
Digital Underground.
NWA, and that's how I learned how to play the drums was to hip hop beats, from my private tutor,
Okay.
and so I got into listening to a lot of hip hop music when I was 9 years old on Long Island, and just I don't know, just kind of decided that I should maybe write my own rhymes and this sort of thing. But then I got more and more into it, and so as I got into high school, it's like I felt like it was a good medium for expressing my thoughts, and especially when I got into high school, I was bullied pretty heavily for my accent, because I'd moved from Long Island to Virginia, and so I was picked on every day, even by teachers. Oddly enough, I was actually bullied by teachers, actively bullied by teachers because of my accent, my Yankee accent, and I kind of got obsessed with this idea of like I can control this language better than you. So I ended
That
up,
was your shtick. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, dude, I
that
get
was my
that.
thing.
That
So
was your,
I
yeah,
got into it, like
yeah.
etymologies and rhymes and all this kind of stuff, and I also got into other languages. So it was like currently right now I'm teaching myself my fourth language. Um,
Oh, okay. Wow.
so yeah,
What?
so it's been an obsession with me. It's like it's always like, even if I don't have anyone to prove it to, which I don't anymore because nobody else is around. So it's just like, oh well, why is Bob teaching himself coin, which is ancient Greek, and like it's like I can read and write Thai in Spanish, and it just like it continues to piss me off. It really does. If we're gonna be honest, and I know that I'm 39 years old, I ought to be a fucking adult, but it still pisses me off. Like my fucking teacher made me stand up in front of class and asked me to pronounce coffee, hot dog, car,
That's so
so,
fucked.
so that I could reveal to everyone how much I didn't fit in.
How old were you?
I was 13 at the time.
That's, yeah, that's not okay.
And it just got under my skin, and so now it's at the point where it's like, yeah, I've got 600 or 700 poems on my belt. It's like twice of what Robert Frost and Emily Dickinson ever published or wrote and kept under their fucking box spring. And not that I'm better than them or anything like that, but it's like I've got the materials, and 15 years out of college, I still continue to give myself homework. I
Yeah.
still do. I still do
You put
every
in the
week.
work. You put in the work.
I put in the work because it's
Right.
all just practice anyway. It's
Yeah.
like you can say you wrote 600 poems, but when you write number 601, it's still practice.
Yeah, of
Don't
course.
don't kid yourself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
People
you're not
people look
you're
at
not you're not Shakespeare.
people look at success and they're like, "Oh, I wish I would have that." Like it's something that just falls onto someone. It's not, success is something that you achieve, and it's something that is like, it's not, people seem to think that it falls in your lap, but it's something that if you look at someone and they're successful, it's because they achieved it usually.
Yep.
That they worked their asses off to have something, to have created something. You know, it's like, yep. So you were telling me earlier about like your roots in music and like where you came from musically. Who are your like, who do you listen to currently? Who are some of your favorite artists?
I got a lot of my influence. Talk influence. From my dad. It's uh, his favorite films were Dune, Alien, Aliens, 2001, Blade Runner. Um, and I got a lot of influence. I always wanted to write a sci-fi story that might impress him. Um, Never had that option because I mean, he died in '06, so that's like 14 years ago, and I'm still living this dream. But um, so I got a lot of influence from that. But he also like he listened to this is one of those funny things. I don't even know if my mom's going to be appreciative of hearing this, but when I was growing up, like in hindsight, I kind of realize it now. Well, like in hindsight, my mom never got to choose the music. It was always my dad, and my mom was a housewife, and my dad was a cop in New York. And so when he would get off of work, he'd work on shit, tinkering around with things and fixing things, and he was always the one who chose the music that played around. And so I grew up on Fleetwood Mac, Carly Simon, Bob Seger, the Eagles, or not the Eagles, but Eagles, ZZ Top, that sort of thing. And my mom was never one to intervene or choose the music herself, and I guess it was because, like, I don't know, when you're a cop you have a lot of stress going on, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, just let him choose the music and you will get over it. But yeah, so lots of that, Mick Fleetwood, and then I started getting into Pink Floyd and lots of weird stuff. Primus,
Fuck
Mike
yeah.
Mike Watt.
Hell yeah, dude.
Mike Watt is a huge influence on me.
Absolutely.
Placebo, God Lives Underwater, specifically the song Empty. That's the one that got me really into, like, using higher end tones in a heavier setting. Godspeed You Black Emperor. I would have to say my favorite band is Do Make Say Think, off the same record label, Constellation Records, out of Montreal.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, Do Make Say Think is probably my biggest influence and whatnot. But yeah, it's really all over the place. And like I said earlier, the Andrews sisters and Django Reinhardt and a lot of Abbott and Costello, Singing in the Rain.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, like my mom raised me on like Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, really singer-songwriter kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think I was very different in that sense, where it's like, it was more like there was a lot of Steely Dan as well. So it's like
My mom also really liked blues.
there was always even though my dad and I never really talked much, there was always kind of like in his choice of music, there was always this perfectionist element, like Steely Dan. You know, where it's like, you're going to hit this hi-hat exactly like this, and you're not going to hit it any other way. And if you do, we're going to start over, or I'm going to fire your ass. So, yeah.
I got you. Hey Philip, what did you grow up listening to? I'm curious.
R&B, so like Usher, actually not really that so much. It was a lot of my mom's music. I guess a lot of rock. A lot of rock. The Strokes, White Stripes, shit, man, just fucking everything. I don't know. a lot of rock.
I got you. Yeah, it's kind of a big question. I'm realizing that. It's like I think everyone's got kind of a melting pot, you know, in their own way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, like, when is there any artists right now that you're following that's currently making things that you're like that you're excited about when they make something?
Cliff Martinez,
Cliff Martinez,
Neil Fromm, and Tigran Hamasyan.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get links to these. I'm trying to expand my own musical catalog.
Neil Fromm is a German composer from Germany, and he recently grabbed a shit ton in royalties by having one of his songs called Says, Says, picked up as the end credit sequence and the launch sequence for the film Ad Astra with Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones.
Wow.
But I've been into him for a really, really long time, and it was kind of like, it was a really happy moment for me to realize that, like, dude, this guy makes space rock on keyboards and a piano, and that's it.
Yeah.
And now he's getting royalties for a blockbuster Hollywood film. Like, you know, even if all you do is sell one song, fuck it.
So, like, this is sort of like a etymology, sort of semantics kind of conversation, but what do you think? Okay, I suppose this is two questions. What do you think the definition of art is? What is art and what isn't? And what do you think the definition of magic is? What does that mean?
Well, I have to separate the two, huh?
Well,
I
that's, you can see why I'm putting the two things together, right?
Nah, I can do that, I think.
Okay.
So I think art is intent to express. It's
Yes.
catharsis. It's catharsis. Art is catharsis. Art is intent to express, to get it out, to push it out, get it out of your system so that you can move on. Magic is intent through catharsis. It's the investment. It's the intent to make change.
Wow, you really
So I think that the two go hand in hand. Magic is the initial moment going into the art. Magic is the catharsis. It's the emotional, the psychological, the physical, the intellectual investment, the energetic investment that goes into producing the art. And the art is what allows the catharsis. It allows the release of all of these different energies.
That is such a great answer. It's, yeah,
So it goes from one to the other.
So so I was getting in on the podcast with someone else. I was getting into a conversation about they were describing nature as art, and I was like, well, to me, nature implies intent, similar to what you were saying. And if nature is indeed art, that implies that someone created that, right?
No, I would actually disagree with you. I would say that nature has no intent.
So is it art though?
Nature just is.
Okay, so it wouldn't qualify as art.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can see a tree grow and be like, that's beautiful,
Right.
but
it's a poeticism. It's not art.
There's no poesis behind it. There's no mythology behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mythopoetic injustice.
Yeah.
Inspiring you.
Right.
To make that tree a tree. You didn't make that tree a tree. The tree is just a tree.
Yeah.
But if you want to take your knife and carve up a heart and R plus A, you know, Rob loves Alex, you know, onto it. Well, yeah, maybe you can call that art, but nah, nature is nature. I don't think that there's any.
Right. If you imply that there's art in nature, you're implying like someone creating it. Yeah.
Well, no. I wouldn't go there at all. I mean, we can have our intelligent design versus evolution debate on another clock, but it's not about intelligent design. It's a matter of, like, it's a disservice to artists when you flat out say with a straight face that God created everything and therefore everything is art. Nah, fuck off.
Right.
It's a different subject.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also not getting up in arms when someone says, art is that nature is art. You know, I understand that that's just a poeticism, but literally, I just don't think that's true. um, like, but you know, I'm not going to be an asshole when someone brings that up or something. It's just something that's been stirring around in my head. Uh,
Mm.
um, yeah, like, and so there is such a you know, something else that's been stirring around my head is like, if we had a unified goal as a people, we'd be able to accomplish a lot more. Obviously, when people collaborate, they do well together. But
Well, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, obviously. But like, what would be a good singular goal for people to focus on if they, if there were such a way to get everyone behind it? What would be a good thing to rally behind? I think. And I don't know if there is like, do you, if you had everyone listening to you and you had the ability to influence and direct them in a certain way, what what would you direct them with? You know, what are, so, and people have been trying to figure that out for a long time, and we have different systems for it. Um, you know, we have religious tenets, you know, the Ten Commandments and so on, and we have systems of government, and we try to think of different ways to deal with that. But um, I guess I know it's such a big question, but do you have any thoughts on that?
There's a book by Michel Foucault called Power Knowledge, page 77. He says, "We are subjected to the production of truth through power, and yet we cannot exercise power except through the production of truth." My advice to anyone and everyone would be, get the fuck out of the goddamn paradox and the fucking catch-22 and think for yourself.
Right. Yeah. So that's an ideal to uphold, is individuality and reaching conclusions on your own.
It feeds into itself. It feeds into itself.
Right.
You're either going to subject someone else to power or be subjected to power, but in order to be subjected to power, you have to subject somebody else to power, and then it's just this constant feedback loop,
Hmm.
like what Douglas Hofstadter called I am a strange loop. You know, it just feeds back into itself, one in, one out, one in, one out, one in, one out, like a pedal chain on a guitar rig.
Hmm.
And it's disgusting to watch people go through this, where they can't even realize you can unplug at some point. You can
Just
unplug.
self-awareness and being able to think for your oneself, to arrive at your
Well,
own conclusions on things, and how
well,
to research things and look up information on your own.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's yeah. A lot of it is self-awareness. It's being aware of the fact that you're out of it. So when you're sitting behind an instrument and you're playing it, to what extent are you aware that you've lost awareness of
Mm-hmm.
everything around you?
Mm-hmm.
When you get into a zone and you forget that there's a roof over your head, there's cars driving by you, there's a roommate sitting in the other room that you might be pissing off. You've completely forgotten about all these things. They don't even exist anymore. But at the same time, like, you've got your head up your ass, and so, like, be to what extent can you be self-aware that that's what's happening to you?
Right. Right. You gotta lose yourself in the moment you want it, better never let it go.
Yeah, just know that you are disassociating.
Right. Yeah. Kind of look at yourself from above and pull your strings like a puppet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it's not. It's more like if we're talking in terms of creating art, you you always inevitably through practice disassociate
Right.
in your creative process.
And
You
yeah, you don't
separate
realize
from
you're
yourself.
doing it
You
because you're
become
just seeing it.
you
Yeah.
become a third party to yourself. But I think there's a lot of people who aren't self-aware of the fact that that's what's fucking happening to you. Every time you get into a creative hole, you're disassociating, and or you can call it going into a zone. I'm in a zone. Yeah, I'm in a zone. Don't fuck with me while I'm in my zone. You know, but it's disassociation, and
I usually
and to what extent are you aware of that?
I like to think of it as channeling, but I think that's just a different way of looking at it, and that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's you have to be absorbed in it, and it's like you're not aware of self even at that point. You're just kind of you're doing something. It's like you might as well just be a process at that point.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm getting at. But at the same time, you can remain self-aware of the fact that you have become a process.
Yeah.
It's a kind of like internal meta discussion within yourself. Like I'm it is possible to get into a zone and at the same time remain in the zone while consciously recognizing the fact that you are in a zone. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think a
It's
lot of people do that.
it's a little bit of mental gymnastics, and it's a trick you have to learn. But
Yep.
yeah, right. No, I'm with you, man. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Uh, that's good advice. It really is. That's the sort of the goal to aspire for when it comes to getting into your art like that. I think it's a form of meditation, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't want to use that word, but that's exactly what it is.
We keep touching on a subject that we're gonna get into at another time. You know. Yeah.
It's a type of live action dreamscaping.
Right. Right.
Really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Well, I think we're almost out of time here. Did one of you guys want to bring up anything else before we
Uh,
skedaddle?
Before we cut it off, I got this for the next time. Today, this is for my service industry folks who might be watching this. Today, another day at work on one more day at work on my existence. Today, another hour lost to every hour lost to my resistance. Today, another minute here and there, another minute here I go, another second past today and ever since.
Bars. I feel it.
Bars.
Yeah.
I felt that in me.
Absolute bars.
Well, I mean, what a great note to close it on.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Robert. This has been great, and
Thank,
I'm looking forward to talking to you again, man.
well, thank you for having me. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
It's good
for
to have
sure.
it's good to have a few new friends.
Yeah, dude. I'm so looking forward to talking to you about all this other stuff.
Yeah, of course. Let me know.
Hell yeah, dude. And thanks again, Phil, for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'll see you guys later.
See ya. All right. And thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. Who's going to be with us? Who knows? Ooh, guess you have to tune in and fucking find out for yourself. Okay. Have a good night.